The Shepnaz podcast begins now.
Hey everyone, it's the Shepnaz podcast. Here at Shepherd Church, everything we do is to connect our community in a meaningful relationship with Christ. I'm Joey, and I get to host this podcast and serve as a pastor here at Shepherd. And today we've got a special guest, Bob Gardner. He's here to talk about his story and how God has proven faithful in his life, so stick around to hear about that. Hey Bob, thanks for being here today. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Thanks for coming in, man. I appreciate it. I would love to start the podcast by having people kind of get to know you.
Okay.
Shepherd isn't a huge church, but it's big enough that I'm sure that people who are listening are trying to figure out who you are. Mm-hmm. And so would you kind of give us a little background about you and your family?
Sure. I'm married. My wife, Debbie, have been married about 38 years, and we have 2 adult children, Wes and Lauren, and we have 3 grandchildren, Haley, Sydney, and Marshall.
Very good.
And we've been coming to Shepherd probably about 32 or 33 years. We started, my son, when he was 3, started in Little Lambs, and that's how we got here. Debbie Presley was his teacher. She invited us here, and that's how we got started. All
right. So 33 years. So I think you might win the prize so far of who's been on the podcast.
Okay.
Unless, I think so. Pretty easily. You win the prize.
Oh.
So that's awesome. You've seen a lot of change in the 33 years you've been coming to Shepherd.
Yeah, we actually joined when Noel Smith was still the pastor here.
Okay.
And I've been fortunate to be here ever since with all the great pastors we've had so far.
Yeah. And we're even making it through right now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not struggling too much. We're doing really good.
We're just poking fun at Pastor Rob because he's sitting at his computer trying to work while we're recording this podcast. So, all right. Well, tell us, you've been here for 30 years, and you said you kind of started coming because of the daycare, the children's center. Would you tell me a little bit about how you came to faith? What's the story behind that?
So I grew up in a small rural environment in Pennsylvania, but I grew up in a Christian home.
Okay.
And went to a church that had probably about 50 people, and I think I always say I was related to probably 40 of them. So couldn't really get away with anything. But I would say my journey was a little bit of a struggle because I saw how people acted Monday through Saturday, and then I saw how they acted on Sunday, and it was different. And it confused me for a while. And so as I get into my teenage years, I was fortunate to have an older cousin who kind of recognized that in me, that I was struggling. And she sat me down and we talked, and she helped me understand what Christianity was all about. And the behaviors that I were seeing were not good examples of what Christianity was all about. So fortunately for me, she helped me see the right path, direction. And so I accepted Christ when I was 14.
Oh, wonderful.
And been a great experience ever since.
Cool. Well, so over these 30 years, what are some of the things that you've been able to be a part of at Shepherd, and maybe some things that you're doing now that you get to be a part of that you enjoy being a part of?
Well, I've been very fortunate in that, like I said, when I started with Noel Smith, I was able to be a member of the board when Noel was here, and have been part of a board membership for every pastor since.
Yeah.
So I've been able to see a lot of change, a lot of growth, see things come and go. I've done a little bit of everything. I was on the finance committee, chaired the finance committee. We did a capital campaign for the school. I led that.
Okay.
Have been able to do Sunday school teachings, been involved with some of the money courses that we've taught here with Ramsey, the Ramsey courses. Served in various capacities, done a little bit of dirt digging and everything else in between. So,
well, I'd like to round out your ministry. So on Wednesday nights we have youth group, and
I haven't done that yet.
That's what I'm saying. We got to round that out and get you to come out. We at the day of recording this yesterday, we had the Taco Bell Olympics, and we had about 96 tacos so I really feel like you could put another pin on the board of the things you've been a part of at Shepherd.
Sure.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
He doesn't seem convinced. So you talked about that some of the things that you got to be a part of were different things when it comes to the finance committee, when it comes to helping to teach Financial Peace University, and talk about some of this stuff. So what I want to do is kind of the reason we invited you in is we're in the midst of a series talking about money matters and biblical stewardship. And so we're going to take a quick break, but I want to kind of talk about that because we think that you have a unique story and of what God's done in your life. So let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, that's what we'll talk about.
Great.
Join the millions who will never have to worry about money again. I know that sounds like a commercial, but it's not. Commercials ask you to buy something. Shepherd Church wants to give you something. As we've been diving into the teachings of biblical stewardship, we realize the importance of giving you the tools to get from where you are to where you need to be. With that in mind, Shepherd Church has secured a site license for Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. This is free to all those who call Shepherd Church their home. This includes all of their premium online resources and every dollar budgeting app for all of 2023. If you're ready to get in on this, then email podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know you want the code to unlock your financial peace.
All right, Bob, thanks for being here, man. Again, we're in the midst of a sermon series called Money Matters. We've been talking about generosity, stewardship, and we wanted you to come in and kind of help us see what God's done through the discipline of stewardship and generosity in your life. So could you kind of give us a background of your experience when it comes to stewardship and generosity?
Sure. Growing up in a Christian home, and I grew up in a Baptist church, we were taught tithing, biblical tithing. I understood what that was, but I have to admit that when I was a teenager and into my young adult years, and even when we first got married, we were not biblical tithers. We contributed money to the church, but we felt comfortable with that. It was hard when you're first starting out, as most people would experience. You got a new house and family and all this.
Lots of
bills, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, how am I going to make this tithe stuff work? So one day we started working with a financial planner and started to talk about putting money away for college educations and all that. And I wrote a big check to the gentleman that day to the start of it all. That night, the Holy Spirit convicted me. I couldn't sleep a wink. I felt like the word I was hearing in my mind was hypocrite. Felt like I was being a hypocrite I was wanting God to bless me and bless my family and answer my prayers, but yet I wasn't doing what I needed to do. It wasn't being obedient to Him. So I remember it like it was yesterday. I called the guy at 4 o'clock in the morning, left a voicemail and said, don't cash the check, just tear it up. I can't do this. I need to get my stuff straight with the church first and with God first. And from that day forward, we tithed, and we've never stopped since. And God has proven Himself faithful many, many times over in that whole journey. In this 30 plus years we've been doing it.
And when you say the word tithe, there might be some listeners who don't understand some of that language. So would you help them understand, what does it look like? What is biblical tithing? What does that mean?
So from my understanding, biblical tithing is 10% of your gross income, but also not only your money, but your time and your talent as well. So I've had people ask me, well, is it 10% of the net? And it's like, no, it's 10% of your first fruits of what God has given you. And fortunately, I learned then quickly from some mentors that I had that it's best to try to live on 80%, give away 10%, save 10%, and live on the 80%. And I will say that God has made that 80% grow and go farther than probably the 100% ever would have in that time.
Yeah, because we have a lot of people who like math and they think it doesn't make any sense, right? And logically, it doesn't make sense.
That's right.
But that's where the faithfulness of God and trusting Him is what is kind of that step that He's asking us to take.
I agree.
So when you guys made that decision, were there what were the feelings behind it? Was there fear? Was there kind of anxiety when it came to it?
All the above, yeah. So I can remember it didn't make, like you said, it didn't make human sense. That it's like, okay, if we're going to contribute this amount of money, this 10% to the church, well, how are we going to be able to afford this? Or how are we going to be able to afford? So we had to make some lifestyle changes. We had to talk. My wife and I had to figure out what was really important and what we really wanted to focus on. And we had to give up some things, which at the time seemed rough, but looking back on it now, it seems pretty easy to understand that we did the right thing, and it wasn't easy at the beginning, but God proved Himself faithful, and like I said, there are some examples I could share that where He's helped us, and He's always been faithful. We've never missed a meal. We've always had opportunities to thank Him and show Him faithful for that.
Yeah, and if there was maybe even a young couple or somebody starting out in faith, and what would you say is something to just encourage them to take that step, or really even how do I even start? Like, how do I begin to make that? Because it's kind of like a muscle, like you said. You had to work at it before it became like normal, and then it just became something you did. It became like who you guys are. So it's like a muscle that you have to work out, but at the beginning it can be kind of daunting. So what would you say to somebody who's maybe young, starting out, they're just new to faith, or they're just trying to make ends meet and trying to figure it out?
Yeah, it is a challenge. I won't deny that, and there will be bumps in the road, right? There'll be times where a bill is due, and you've got the tithe that's due, but a bill that's due, and you've got to make a decision, and you've got to trust God. That's all about trust and faith. And as younger folks, we weren't as strong in our faith and as mature as we are now, and we wanted to try to go down that path as sincerely as we could. Again, just so I would encourage people. I love the verse in Malachi where it talks about testing God in this. He doesn't ask us to test Himself anywhere, but in testing in our tithes and offerings. And I think He's almost wanting us to do that, to show Himself faithful. But we've got to be obedient. It's like exercise. I can pray all I want to be strong and muscular like you, but at the end of the day, if I don't go out and do the work, it's not going to happen. Same thing with tithing, right? If you want God's blessings in that respect, you've got to do the work. You've got to be obedient, and He will bless you. There's no doubt in my mind.
And I think it's good to remember that we've talked about this a lot over the past couple of weeks, and through Pastor Rob's sermons. And we want you to know, if you're listening to this, that this really isn't about Shepherd Church needs money and we want you to give. This is all about a spiritual discipline of generosity. That generosity is a value of the kingdom of God, and that having faith in God to take care of us and to trust Him is what this really is. It's an exercise in making sure that we will step out in faith and trust Him. It's not about us saying we need you to tithe so that we can do things at the church.
Exactly.
It's definitely a spiritual discipline to help us grow to be more like Jesus.
Right.
And so we just want to make sure people know that, so that this doesn't come off of as that. But is there anything else, any encouragement you'd like to give to people as they kind of sit down and think about this?
Again, I would just say it's a step of faith and a leap of faith, and God will. He is faithful. He will bless us. And I liked in the past, Pastor Rob, as he's talked about tithing and giving, he's had the 90-day challenge that we've put out in front of people. And if people would try the tithing for the 90-day period, and if you feel like it's not working or God hasn't been faithful, you can get your money back. I'm not aware of anyone in the years that we've done that. I'm not aware of one single person or family that's ever requested or gotten their money back.
Nope.
And there's many, many stories where God's proven Himself faithful.
That's good. Well, Bob, thanks for coming in, man. I really do appreciate it. We're thankful to have you, Debbie, part of the church and your family, and I mean a legacy. 33 years here at Shepherd, and we're thankful for it, man. But that's going to take care of today's episode of the Shepnaz podcast. Special thanks to Rob Paul for letting us use his office and even letting us poke fun at him a little bit. We're thankful for Bob for joining us. Be sure to subscribe wherever you find your audio. Leave us a nice 5-star review. Don't forget that we have an email. You can send us your thoughts, your questions, or anything you'd like us to know at podcast@shepnaz.org. Learn more about what God is doing here through our app, social media pages, and of course online at shepnaz.org. But for Bob, I'm Joey. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.